Today on Searching for History, we're going to show you guys the historic town of Steilacoom, Washington.
It's an early historic town that was built around the 1850s.
We're here on Steilacoom's waterfront, and there's an informational panel, so let's see what it has to say.
The British arrived here in 1792. They had a mission to find and survey the Northwest Passage, but they couldn't find it because there is no Northwest Passage. So instead, they surveyed and mapped the southern waters of the Puget Sound.
They started here at Bainbridge Island. Of course, they came in from the north through the Strait of Juan de Fuca, but they started here at Bainbridge Island, and then it shows the route they took, and then came back around and went past where we are today in Steilacoom, and then went back into the north of Puget Sound. This is explaining that Native people lived in this region for thousands of years before the British arrived. The southern Puget Sound tribes were Coast Salish and included the Puyallup, Nisqually, and Steilacoom, saying that families lived together in longhouses made from cedar planks. They moved with the seasons to hunting and gathering camps. Canoes carved from a single cedar tree were used to travel the waterways, and this is showing a group of Native Americans on the beach and then two of the cedar canoes with Mount Rainier in the background. In 7 days, Puget and his crew traveled over 160 nautical miles. They failed to find the long-desired Northwest Passage. If I remember correctly, Captain Vancouver sent Puget to take a smaller group to explore the southern Puget Sound. All right, let's see what else Steilacoom has to offer. The origin of the name Steilacoom isn't clear. Some say the town's name comes from a Native American word for little pink flower. Others say Hudson's Bay Company fur traders named it after Steilacoom, a Native American chief. The most likely explanation, it was named after the Steilacoom tribe, a Coast Salish people that lived in the area.
European American settlement began at Steilacoom with Lafayette Balk, a sea captain from Maine. The town was officially incorporated in 1854, making it the oldest officially incorporated town in Washington state.
This sign here is showing a historic Steilacoom walking tour sites and monuments map. So we're not going to see all of these things, but you can come here and follow this route and see all the sites in Steilacoom. Behind me is the Immaculate Conception Catholic Church. The Immaculate Conception Church was built in 1857 by soldiers stationed at Fort Steilacoom as the fort's chapel. The chapel was dismantled and moved to its current location in 1864. Until 1880, the church functioned as the mother church for the Puget Sound region. In 1918, the Washington Historical Society erected the marker you see here today. This Catholic church was erected near Fort Steilacoom by soldiers in the early 50s, afterward moved to City of Steilacoom and dedicated Church of Immaculate Conception. In commemoration, this tablet was placed in 1918 by the Washington Historical Society. Well, by the sign on the door, it appears they still hold Mass here. It's interesting to think that this church was once the chapel at Fort Steilacoom and then was actually dismantled and moved to this location in Steilacoom itself. Unfortunately, the church is closed, so we can't show you the inside of it.
This is the Nathaniel Or Home and Orchard. It was built in 1857. Nathaniel Or came here from Virginia in 1852 and built Steilacoom's original wagon shop. But when he married Emma Thompson in 1868, he turned it into a home and built a new wagon shop in a different location.
The home is closed today, and unfortunately they have blinds in all the windows, so you really can't see inside. There's a plaque here though. The Nathaniel Or Home was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1972. Behind me is the Steilacoom Historical Museum, but unfortunately it's closed. The Steilacoom Historical Museum is open Saturdays and Sundays from 1 to 5 p.m., so we're just here too early today. There are some informational panels here on the patio at the Historical Museum. Yeah, so the house you see there was the original wagon shop built in 1857. So here's a historical photograph of Nathaniel Or and his wife, Emma Thompson. This panel talks about two other historic buildings in town. One is the Bear Drug and Hardware, which was built in 1895, and the other is Nathaniel Or's wagon shop that was built in 1868, so the second wagon shop, which is actually right down there below us. We'll go take a closer look at that. And then there, about a block away, is the Bear Drug and Hardware. W.L. Bear, a pharmacist, and his wife, Hattie, came to Steilacoom in 1890. He built his first drugstore located on Commercial Street in 1891. A few years later, he built the store you see here today. Here's a photograph of inside the store in 1915. And here's actually a photograph of the storefront in 1898. So talking about the Nathaniel Or's wagon shop, during the 1920s, the building housed the first gas station in town. The Shell sign can still be seen on the water side of the building. In the late 1940s, it became a boat building shop. Here's a picture of the wagon shop in 1872. So here's the wagon shop. It's pretty cool it still exists. Let's go see if we can look in through the windows. The Steilacoom Town Hall, while it does look old, it actually was built in 1930, so it's not quite so old. And it was built in the neoclassical style. So behind me here is the Bear Drugstore, which was built circa 1895. Today it's a cafe, so we won't be going inside. Here's an interesting monument. So this monument commemorates the erection of the First Protestant church building north of the Columbia River in 1853. The Washington State Historical Society put up this monument in 1908. Of course, the church no longer exists, but it's a pretty grand monument. There really is a lot of history here in Steilacoom. It's kind of spread out, so you got to walk around to find it, but it's pretty cool. So behind me here in these blackberry bushes is the location of the first school that was built north of the Columbia River in 1854. Two-story log house just south, erected 1852. So maybe not exactly in the blackberry bushes, but somewhere over there. First school session north of Columbia, 1854. Refuge during the Indian War, 1855-56, occupied by families of Reverend J.F. DeVore, 1853, Abram Woolery, 1854, Sherwood Bondley, 1854 to 1856, and this marker was erected in 1961 by the Pierce County Pioneer Historical Association. The two-story log cabin that was used as the first school north of the Columbia River would have been located somewhere around here behind me.
This is a marker commemorating the site of the first Washington Territorial Jail. It was built of brick in 1858. It was used for county, state, and federal prisoners, and it was raised in 1944. This monument was erected in 1962 by the Pierce County Pioneers Historical Association.
I wonder how accurate this actually is, but you can see brick here. Like it says, it was built in brick, and then there's bars on the windows. It's too bad that something that substantial no longer exists. You'd think a brick building would still be here, but it's not. Right behind me here is another historical marker. Let's see what it says. This military road afforded the only route of escape from the Puyallup Valley to Fort Steilacoom during the Indian War of 1855, and to the pioneers was a highway of great importance. Along this route in 1864, there was built the Russian-American telegraph line, which was proposed to extend to Europe by way of Bering Strait in Asia. I wonder if that was ever built, the Russian-American telegraph line. I'm assuming that the road they're talking about is right here. Today it's called Union Road. It's kind of an east-west road. And it ends here at the Anderson Island ferry landing, which people are waiting to board the ferry right now. Apparently you can catch the Ketron Island ferry at this ferry landing as well. Behind me is the Steilacoom train depot, which was built in 1914 and closed in 1972. So since 1972, it has just been sitting there, more or less a derelict structure. It's in a pretty sad state. The train depot closed in 1972 and has remained unused since that time. The Washington Trust for Historic Preservation has listed the depot among its most endangered places. It's been on that list since 2018. Recently, there's been talk of saving the building, so hopefully someone does something with it. Well, I would get closer to the train depot and kind of walk around it, but there's all kinds of no trespassing signs, so this is as close as we're gonna get. So the passenger ferry you see in the distance, that's how people get out to Mcneil Island from Steilacoom. In the far distance, you see the old Mcneil Island Penitentiary. So that was a federal prison, then became a state prison. I wish I could take you guys out to Mcneil Island. It's pretty incredible, but it's not open to the public. It's pretty remarkable to see what's left of the prison system out there. Old buildings, the employee homes, the warden house, all that kind of stuff. It's remarkable to see. There's even old work farms out there, but the island's not open to the public, and so searching for history is probably never going to get out there. I've been out there for, part of my day job doing archaeological work. Unfortunately, I can't take you guys with me.
This here is a monument to the first Pierce County Courthouse. It was built here in 1859 and raised in 1932. This monument was erected by the Pierce County Pioneer and Historical Association in 1962. This monument shows a depiction of the building. I wonder if the first Pierce County Courthouse really looked like that. It would be interesting if we could find a historical photo. The first industry in Steilacoom was a grist mill. This here is a marker to Thomas M. Chambers, who built the first mills in Pierce County. He built a grist mill in 1850, a sawmill in 1852, a flour mill in 1855.
You know, so right there is Commercial Street, and while it's just homes looking at the waterfront today, makes me think that maybe originally there was more commercial enterprises or industry along this street, maybe even wharfs and things like that. What do you think about Steilacoom, Erin?
I really enjoy Steilacoom because it's a really beautiful historic town that is still relevant today because it's right on Puget Sound. The railroad goes right through here, and it's still a thriving, beautiful, busy community.
Yeah, and there's lots of historic buildings here. What is it, the Pierce County Historical Society?
Yes.
Or Pierce County Historical Pioneer Society, something like that. They went around and put all kinds of markers around the town to let you know, or let people know what used to be there. And then there is still quite a few of the historical buildings still in Steilacoom. If you're anywhere around here, we definitely recommend coming to Steilacoom and checking it out. Well, that's our video on Steilacoom. I hope you enjoyed it.
Don't forget to like, share, comment on this video, and please subscribe to Searching for History.
Thanks for watching.